Okay, this lesson for the Cornet Project class is to highlight a manner in which you can notice by what people are avoiding. We've talked about biases, our cognitive biases, our affective biases. That's because we are both mental and emotional creatures. We have preferences. From the word we get our English word heresy, heresia, preferences. Now there's damnable heresy, so this is heresia, preferences. Feedback came into an earlier, I guess, an original video about the contradiction between Calvin and Arminianism being solved. And of course, I remember long years ago that was somewhat presumptive, perceived that as though there was some great mystery and there's really no way to solve it. And again, I'm trying to get a camera fit. Okay, now, so the axiom of Reformed theology is that regeneration precedes faith. Well, that can influence and persuade and cause our biases toward that axiom to show up. So sometimes people may think we iterate too often, but this was feedback from someone else. So they noticed and said a comment. It may have been derogatory, diminutive, or just emoting, but they said it sounds like a King James cult to him, which again, that's, you get thrown under other people's buses, but it's okay. So we'll look and see, because what it looks like is the New King James, the RSV, the Net Bible, and the ESV are making the King James translation look better in this particular case. So let's look, if you don't mind, for just a moment. I'll move over here and we will take a quick snapshot. Just English, I'll put 2 Greek words up in just a moment. But John 20:31, that you might believe that Jesus, of course, is the Christ. I don't have room for all that. And that believing, you might have life, and that's through his name. So you have believe and believing. Very obvious. You remember that's the punctular action, simple form of action, punctular, and then the line, which is present tense, and then we have perfect tense, which point plus the line. And that's really how simple it is. This is aorist. This is present. And this is perfect. Now, when you grasp just how profound that is, you'll notice that some translators take this very seriously. So when you say, should we be emphasizing the kind of action like the Koine Greek text? Well, notice these people do. First, King James translators, from Tyndale to the King James translators who used his material, they notice very carefully. And this is the King James Bible. You see ye there, but you notice they have believe and believing. There's no believeth. So let's go over to 1 John 5:1. This is where we have the King James still. It says, whosoever believeth, but that ending there, which I suppose was fading out in this transition at the time, but it's present tense, nominative masculine singular. It's a participle. This is a finite verb, punctular action. You can look that up. This is a present active participle. This is the same word as this word. And for this consistency between the text in John 20:31 King James and 1 John 5:1 King James, they get an A+. They did a great job. So let's give them a smiley face for our King James in this text, an A+ for being careful to acknowledge that. Present active participle, present active participle. Of course, let's look at the difference before I move on, because this one here is pistu, that word from pistuo, believe, pistu, and it's ontes. There's the little ending there, but you can see pistuo, that word we've used so much. You all have that down. You really can't forget it. There it is. So that's the lexical form. So pistu ontes, and then we have this believing, the ho pistuon. Notice pistu again. You see it there. Let's just put this. and it's singular. So, but the controversy is that regeneration is between believe and believing. Now, if you're all about the gospel as the Bible is, the Gospel of John is the divinely ordained, divinely inspired gospel of persuasion, and you have the gospel first, these things, referring back to the scripted signs, miracles in their contextualized narratives, have been written and remain on record that you might believe. So we have the gospel first, and you remember in 1 Corinthians 4:15. Well, here we have so first is the gospel, then the person believes, punctular action, and then 3, fathered through the gospel. That's like a conduit. So we're fathered through the gospel, 1 Corinthians 4:15. And then 4 out on the other side of that gospel becomes the one who is believing. Now, there's no one to argue with, and there's nothing to argue about. It's self-evident. The language is very disappointing sometimes, especially when you notice these very significant efforts that were made. So let's go to the New King James Version. John 20:31, believe, believing. So let's grade these. Let's just do that very quickly. Let's say believe, believing, so that's 100%. Let's just do smiley face. New King James Version, smiley face, good job. The second edition New Testament, 1971, the Revised Standard Version, believe in believing, 100%, good job. The Net Bible, 1996, believe, believing. Now this one's very high tech, so it's very much about then the ESV as late as 2:16, believe in believing. So it looks like everyone over here on this side are able to translate that in a manner that correctly correlates and directly correlates 100% with the Koine text. But when we come over here to 1 John 5:1, this is where the relationship of being fathered or regenerated or generated out from God and the relationship to believing or believe. You remember it was in Philippians 1:29, we have been graced, charizomai, to keep on believing. That's ing, keep on. Remember, you can't keep on doing something you haven't yet done. And God graced them to keep on doing what they had done, which was to believe. Paul said in perfect tense that he had believed and was continuing to believe. So let's go over here. King James, again, why RSV, Net, ESV would make King James look so good in this case, it's just striking to me. It's like the old saying is, beat a dead horse. Well, they're beating a dead construct. It's already been demonstrated that that's not there, but you notice how significant the investment is. The New King James Version, New King James Version, RSV, Net, and ESV. New King James Version says believes. That's punctular action. So they replaced it so that it would precede, so that regeneration would precede believe. So that's sad face. And not only do they not get an A+, they get an F+, because if someone, I was raised in Arkansas, played out here at Holland Bottoms in the swamp, fished and swam in the ponds, caught grinnell out of the bayou, Jack's bayou down here. I'm not sure how someone like me who practically slithered out of the woods in the forest and only raised in Arkansas and the schools I attended. And so I'm not sure, but it seemed like this New King James Version, which was 1982, there was technology by then, and so really how they could miss it, because you see, we're just comparing them with themselves. I don't really like it. I mean, I've seen it where people compare an English translation with a different English translation, but I'm saying we're comparing them with themselves. And this is very unusual because few people notice that. When we do evaluation, we can stop and notice that, well, were they able to translate it correctly anywhere? So you notice the King James translators so far are being made to look really good by this NKJV group, this RSV group, this NET group, this ESV group, because they all went believe, 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 believe. So now we have to be the bad guys, as I find it so funny, those of us who actually just use the text as it's written are sometimes characterized as something other than that which should otherwise be honored and respected, as the Bible says. We're of more noble character, like the Bereans, to search the scriptures to see if these things are so. And this is a good lesson. You have it. You can go to blueletterbible.org. In just a few moments, you can look this up. You can notice this. You can go through it, write it out in English. Take the dates. They're at the bottom of blueletterbible.org. Then compare the New King James Version, what they did, what they seemed very capable of doing, believe and believing. So they kind of, showed their hand here. And then over here, they were unable to translate it present tense. So present tense is continuous action, continuous action, continuous action, continuous. And now don't ask me, ask them. See, this is where you can notice what we talk about a lot, cognitive biases, where we want so badly the Bible to say what we believe that we might even write it in there. So don't be too disappointed, but also learn to compare things for yourselves. ESV with ESV, NET with NET, RSV with RSV, New King James with New King James. It's quite striking, but this will show you just how serious this is for some people who have a great investment in the axiom of Reformed theology being, namely, that regeneration precedes faith. So much invested are they that these are skewed because of it. Now that's just my conclusion from a very, I guess this you could have a more simple way, but I don't know of a more efficient, more effective way. And this one's irrefutable because we're using their material to notice that someone that was involved in NKJV knew the difference between aorist and present, but didn't seem to be able to carry it over. By the time they got to 1 John, they may have. Again, this is where you get to some of those controversial texts. I'll include a link for Dr. James R. White. He's the most astute, unsurpassed scholar in Koine Greek. He has a text on 1 John 5:1. However, he doesn't notice that is called the audience, the viewer's attention to the distinction between believe and believing. He just notices that being fathered precedes believing or believes, but he doesn't say. But as a matter of fact, I haven't reviewed that in years, so let's look that over, and I'll include that in the link. So have a blessed day, enjoy this, but I always wanted to say what I hear Joe Biden known for now. Come on, man. You're making the King James translation and translators look good, and you're beating a dead construct. So come on, man. So have a blessed day.